You won't believe why Johnny Whitaker, the iconic child actor from the classic sitcom era, has flat out refused to watch one very specific episode he filmed as a kid. It's not because of a bad hair day or a cheesy storyline. Nope, the truth behind it is so personal, it might just change how you see child stars forever. Let's rewind a bit. Imagine you're just 6 years old. Most kids that age are playing with toy cars, climbing trees, or worrying about nap time. But not Johnny. By the time he was 6, he was already a household name with those unforgettable freckles, that mop of red hair, and a smile that basically said, "You're gonna love me whether you want to or not." But fame? Fame came fast. Johnny Whitaker, born John Orson Whitaker Jr. on a chilly December day in 1959 in Venice, California, was the fifth out of 8 siblings. You can almost picture the chaos at home. 8 kids, all with their own dreams, squabbling over breakfast cereal, probably driving their parents up the wall. But Johnny? He had that it factor. Even as a toddler, he was somehow different. When most 3-year-olds could barely keep their shoes on the right feet, Johnny was nailing his lines in a local used car commercial, charming everyone on set with his energy and that big, infectious grin. It wasn't long before the big fish came calling. By 4 and 5, Johnny was the face of Mattel's Animal Yackers, those goofy, talking toy animals from the golden age of TV advertising. Remember Larry the Lion or Crackers the Parrot? Those wacky pull-string voices? That was Johnny, making kids everywhere beg their parents for the latest Mattel toy. He turned animated animals into childhood friends and turned 60-second commercials into must-see TV. But it didn't stop there. By 1965, Johnny had moved up to real-deal acting, snagging a role on General Hospital. And if you've ever watched a soap opera, you know how intense those storylines get even for the kids. Johnny played young Scotty Baldwin, a role that demanded way more emotional range than your average elementary school talent show. The adults on set couldn't believe how natural he was, crying on cue, delivering dramatic lines, holding his own with grown-up actors who'd been at it for decades. He didn't just do soap operas though. By 1966, Johnny scored a spot in a big Hollywood comedy, The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. Yeah, that's a real movie title, and back then it was a big deal. The film was packed with stars like Brian Keith and Carl Reiner, but guess who left a lasting impression? Little Johnny with his wide eyes and fearless attitude. Brian Keith was so impressed, he personally vouched for Johnny when a new sitcom was being cast, a sitcom that would change Johnny's life. Now, if you haven't guessed by now, that show was Family Affair. Picture the setup. A high-powered bachelor uncle suddenly becomes the guardian of 3 orphan siblings, living in a fancy Manhattan apartment with a British butler who runs the place like a 5-star hotel. It sounds wacky, but in the 60s, it was a smash hit. Johnny played Jody, one of the 2 youngest siblings, with Anissa Jones playing his twin sister Buffy. Fun fact, originally Jody and Buffy weren't even supposed to be twins. The producers saw Johnny and Anissa together, realized their chemistry was off the charts, and rewrote the script just to keep them side by side. Family Affair wasn't just another sitcom though. It had heart. It was warm, funny, and, sometimes, a little too real. It's easy to look back and think, oh, those old shows were so wholesome. But the real-life stories behind them were a lot messier. Johnny and Anissa became inseparable on set, almost like siblings in real life. The show gave audiences laughs, sure, but it also asked big questions about family, loss, and what it means to find comfort when your whole world turns upside down. Now, here's where things get heavy. Let's talk about the episode. The one Johnny can't watch. Mrs. Beasley, Where Are You? On the surface, it's an episode about a missing doll. Sounds simple, right? But for Jody and Buffy, and for the millions of kids watching at home, Mrs. Beasley was more than just a toy. She was their anchor, their last piece of normal after losing their parents. The story is emotional, but here's what you didn't see. Johnny, just 6 years old, was living those feelings for real. Shooting that episode wasn't easy. The script demanded raw, genuine emotion, fear, sadness, and real tears. Johnny wasn't faking it. He said in interviews that the crying you see on screen wasn't acting. It was him, genuinely overwhelmed. Imagine being a little kid, surrounded by cameras, crew, and directors being told, "Okay, now cry, make it look real." For Johnny, it was real. The pain and confusion he felt didn't switch off when the cameras stopped rolling. But why did that episode hit so hard? Johnny has explained that, at the time, he was struggling with the pressures of being a famous child. Everyone expected him to be perfect, always happy, always ready to perform. He felt isolated, even when surrounded by adults telling him how amazing he was. The themes of the episode, loss, searching for something to hold on to, not wanting to say goodbye, mirrored what he was feeling inside even if he didn't have the words for it. Filming with Anissa Jones, his best friend and twin, only made things tougher. Their scenes together, especially when it came to dealing with loss, brought out real emotions neither of them were ready for. And years later, when Anissa died young, that episode became even more painful. A reminder of a friend he lost, not just a storyline. Johnny's tears in that episode weren't just about Mrs. Beasley. They were about everything: the sudden fame, the pressure, the confusion of growing up in front of millions, and the loneliness that came with it. After that, he just couldn't bring himself to watch it again. Not then, not now. But here's the thing, Johnny didn't let that moment define him. He kept acting, diving into all kinds of roles. He showed up on Bonanza, playing a boy with big dreams in an episode written by none other than Michael Landon. He played angels, farm kids, and even a modern-day Jack in a twisted version of Jack and the Beanstalk on Bewitched. No matter what genre, drama, comedy, fantasy, Johnny made it look easy. He even became a Disney favorite, starring in movies like Snowball Express and The Biscuit Eater, or playing opposite a young Jodie Foster in Napoleon and Samantha. Then came his most iconic film role, Tom Sawyer. If you've ever seen that version, you know. Johnny was Tom Sawyer, mischievous, clever, and impossible not to root for. But growing up in the limelight takes its toll. As he got older, Johnny felt the need to step back and find out who he was outside of acting. He went behind the scenes, working as a talent manager and helping other child stars, including Dana Plato, who had her own battles with fame and loss. Johnny's willingness to help others shows the kind of empathy you only get from walking that difficult road yourself. He's been recognized for his work, too, picking up Lifetime Achievement Awards and making cameos in TV and stage productions, never losing that humble, approachable spirit. He even did a bit of radio hosting, connecting with fans on a whole new level. But no matter how much time passes, that Mrs. Beasley episode is off limits. For Johnny, it's not about bad memories or shame, it's about protecting himself. That episode is a snapshot of a little boy who felt vulnerable, exposed, and overwhelmed by emotions he didn't know how to handle. Watching it would be like tearing open an old wound. And honestly, can you blame him? So many people think being a child star is all red carpets and autograph signings, but behind the scenes, it's a minefield. The highs are thrilling, but the lows, those stick with you. Johnny's story is a reminder that what you see on TV is just the tip of the iceberg. The real story, the one that matters, is what happens after the cameras stop rolling. So the next time you catch a rerun of Family Affair or spot Johnny's face in an old Disney flick, think about the real kid behind the character. The one who made you laugh and cry but also faced real struggles when no one was looking. He's a survivor, someone who found the strength to say, "I don't need to go back to that place. I've lived it once, that's enough." Now, if you grew up watching Johnny, or if you've ever been moved by a TV show that made you think twice about your own life, drop a comment below. What's your Mrs. Beasley moment? The memory you keep close but don't need to revisit. And if you learned something new about Johnny's journey today, or if you just want more untold Hollywood stories like this one, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss the next story. Thanks for sticking with me on this emotional ride. Remember, behind every episode, every laugh, every tear, there's a real person with a real story. That's what makes TV magic. I'm glad we could share this one together. See you in the next one.